In Halls Creek, Western Australia, there's a small memorial with a big story. It's a tale of two young men, 16-year-old Simon Amos and his 17-year-old mate, James Annetts.
This is a pretty good track for out here on the edge of the desert. It's even got a few corrugations to make you think it's well used. But in fact, it ends just down there. Like many other seismic lines, it's one of thousands which form a big maze out here in the desert that trapped Amos and Annetts.
This is a mysterious tragedy, but one thing is for sure, the teenagers got stuck on a road to nowhere. I'm Peter Bindon, and this is Out There.
Inspector John Hatton has a story, a tale of the loneliness and suffering of Simon Amos and James Annetts. Inspector Hatton was in charge when these teenagers were found, and that memory has haunted him ever since.
They're from country New South Wales, and that's quite dramatically different from country Kimberley. They had an old Toyota utility, four-wheel drive, four-cylinder, but the vehicle was in a very poor mechanical condition.
Amos was the caretaker at Sturt Creek Cattle Station in Western Australia's far north. Annetts had the same job at Nicholson Station some 150 kilometres away. The boys headed to desert country in the south. Why they ventured in that direction is a secret the two will keep forever.
A lot of things just don't add up. They didn't take their personal belongings with them if they were going to leave and not come back. They left all their personal gear behind, yet they took some food and some water. Now, why on earth they took that road that leads into the desert? I can't understand this. I mean, to turn off the Tanami Road, it was a deliberate manoeuvre. They just didn't stumble off the road. They deliberately turned right to travel down in the desert.
The track the boys were on led straight into a system of seismic lines, a maze of roads, some 80 kilometres long, crisscrossing randomly and built for geological surveys.
The vehicle's become bogged on one of these seismic tracks. They've obviously tried to dig it out because when we found the vehicle, they'd used the side gates, the tail gates, to put underneath the wheels to try and get it moving again. They left the vehicle bogged and they walked 19 kilometres north along the road, along the dirt road, and then they've set up a little camp on the side of the road. I'm pretty sure they were scared. As I say, there was absolutely nobody around, no other human beings they could turn to for help.
The police had no clues before finding the vehicle and began a massive search for the missing pair. They covered an area several times the size of the United Kingdom.
Track 400 kilometres south of Halls Creek. On the roof of the car, an SOS plea for help.
It was 4 months before geologists stumbled across the bogged vehicle, hundreds of kilometres from the main search area.
Pointing north. Today, a police party which had camped overnight at the scene set out and made the inevitable discovery.
There's vegetation, but absolutely no water. You know, the Aboriginals don't even go in there in the summertime because they know there's very little in there. So it's a pretty awful place to be.
Annetts had been a Boy Scout. On the roof of the vehicle, a crude SOS sign made of tools and wire. Beside the car, an arrow pointed in the direction they had walked. This allowed Inspector Hatton and his men to trace the boys' last steps. Both had died months earlier.
Where we found Annette's body, that road goes for another 6 kilometres further into the desert, further north. It finishes abruptly, there's a turnabout, and you just look over the plain and there's just nothing but flatness for miles as far as you can see. And when I first saw that, you look out as far as you can see, I thought, my God, what a bloody dreadful what a dreadful thing to see. I mean, all their hopes must have just gone like that. Dreadful.
I found peace.
Annette's final message was scratched on his water bottle. My fault. And I found peace. Amos's remains were found a few kilometres closer to the vehicle. His suffering had ended with a gunshot wound to the head.
Amos and Annette's were in a hopeless situation, but we can learn from their experience. We'll meet just the man who can teach us when we come back. One thing you can't do out in this sort of country is underestimate Mother Nature. If you come out here, you have to be prepared.
Where they made the biggest mistake, they didn't tell anybody where they were going and why they were going. They had no radio in the vehicle for radio contact with anybody. The vehicle was totally unsuitable for where they were going.
Although they did mark the direction in which they walked, Amos and Annette's could have tried a few other things to raise the alarm.
Thinking about it, as I've done quite a bit for the past 9 years, the only thing I would have done, I would have set fire to that vehicle.
If people get stuck out there, they can always light the grass, no effects.
This is Henry Polly from the Balgo community, and this is his country. Amos and Annette's died 100 kilometres from Balgo in the Great Sandy Desert. Henry reckons they had little hope at all of surviving. Do you reckon this is really hard country?
Oh yeah, pretty hard for Kade, you know. For white men, it's pretty hard for white men to see. Like Aboriginal people, they know where water is, see. Rock hole, they know where to find water.
Trees, rocks, animal tracks, dingo diggings, types of soil, they're all water indicators to the trained eye.
When you're in a sort of a rocky place like this, when you see them little birds, they tell you where the water is. In the cave or in the rock hole, you know. Or when you see little butterfly flying around, they tell you where the water is. That you know that water is somewhere underneath.
If finding water isn't already hard enough out here, you also have to know how to make it stretch by not sweating it out from your body. Conserving water is as valuable as drinking it.
If I break down, well, I travel at night. First at night. Next day stop at the tree, then stay when you get night and cool, then travel on till I find the next water.
Sadly, Amos and Annette never knew how close they were to their next drink.
We checked the radiator of the vehicle, the ute, and found out it was full of water with no additives in it. You could have used it to drink.
Sometimes drinkable water is in an obvious place, like the windscreen washer container, or it can be caught from the air conditioning condenser. Amos and Annette just weren't prepared for a breakdown. They paid the ultimate price.
Trying to put yourself in their place, I saw the countryside and the circumstances which they died. It was horrific, you know, the temperature and being so isolated, and the predicament they were in. It must have been a dreadful way to go.
Next, we'll head down to Tasmania. A very different climate and a very different survival story.
He made the most extraordinary and heroic efforts to bring everybody back safely.